Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of State of the YouTube. MumkeyJones is off tonight because, as of the day we're recording this, he is dealing with some significant YouTube trouble, and both of his two major accounts have been terminated as of today due to very questionable mass flagging that may or may not have been triggered due to automated keywords involving
absolute bullshit. None of these videos, as far as I know, none of these videos needed to be flagged at all because none of them broke any terms of service.
Well, so before we get into the whole Mumkey thing, let me just announce we have two guests replacing Mumkey on the show for today. We have the magnificent Nerd City.
Hey, it's Nerd City. How's it going?
And we also have the fabulous Justin Whang in the call.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Howdy, Justin. It's good to have you on. Nerd, it's good to have you on. I think it's the first podcast that I've been on with either of you, actually.
Yeah, I guess definitely. That's true. Well, it's always awkward introducing yourself and saying your own name. It kind of feels like first day of school.
Right, yeah. Hey, Nerd, can you stand up and say why you came to school and what you're into?
Well, I'm a grown man, and I collect Star Wars figures and a little bit of Voltron. And I'm hoping to... Never mind, I was going to make an inappropriate joke.
Oh, that's fine. You can make as many inappropriate jokes as you
want. No,
we
just learned today, painfully, that maybe we need to watch our mouths with the edgy humor.
Well, okay, so the way that this channel even started, the State of the YouTube podcast channel, started with a channel I'd made a while back called The Knife Game, and it was where I just uploaded all my old knife game related videos, and I didn't upload upload to the channel for over a year, but after about a year or two, they started going back into the back catalog and striking all the channels. And so I woke up one day and I had 2 emails saying, hey, this video's been striked, this video's been striked, 3 strikes and you're out. So I had to private every single video on this channel and figure out what to do with it. So the only thing I could do was turn it into this podcast channel. So you know what? From every burned something comes a new YouTube podcast.
That's the truth.
They honestly, there's, the striking system in terms of, at least, content strikes, something needs to be changed about it. I don't think, honestly, there should be content strikes, with the exception of, obvious, spam and shit like that. Because there's no way to tell if a video is actually going to be acceptable. I'm assuming that all of the Mumkey videos that got taken down at some point were demonetized and manually reviewed and confirmed by manual review.
Absolutely, they absolutely were. I mean, one of his videos that got taken down was just it was a music video that I made for his, or he made the music video, I made the song for it, and it's just like this innocent thing, and it's all been privatized, so it can't even be spam if it's private, if no one can watch it. And it gave him a strike, and that was the one of the videos that caused his channel to be taken down. It makes zero fucking sense, and it makes me incredibly mad.
The whole concept of having 3 strikes come in a single day kind of breaks the analogy of it even being strike 1, strike 2, and strike 3, because you can't strike out in a single, all at once. It's 3 pitches, and you get 3 chances, and the chances being... The chances you would assume would be for you to correct the behavior, for you to not do that again. So if it all came in a single day, then he had no chance to be like, oh, okay, well, then that content is off limits and I'll stop doing that. You can't self-correct if all 3 strikes happen in a single day. So it feels like it's not even the right analogy to call them strikes at that point.
Yeah, what would you call them, though?
Here's the big problem with YouTube and the strike system and the enforcement system. Mumkey's videos that got strike today that ultimately led to his channel termination, many of these videos were months old. And you have to realize that as
years
a YouTuber...
Years old.
Yeah, some of them were over 2 years old. And you have to understand that as a YouTuber, YouTube's rules are almost always changing. So how can we have a system and call it fair where you upload a video at one time and it stays online for 2 years and it's perfectly fine, then all of a sudden YouTube moves the goalposts and YouTubers are somehow expected to know that their videos retroactively violate the guidelines?
They gotta curate their content at that point, just because now all of a sudden, say the person who's in charge of fucking whatever, they type in Elliot Rodger into the list of words that cannot be put in a YouTube title, and then while that was acceptable for the longest time, someone just put it in today, and look what pops up. A bunch of MumkeyJones videos, strike, through the automated bot, and he fights it, and they look back, and they say, well, looks like you put Elliot Rodger in the title of your video, and that's unacceptable. And fuck that. You're right, nerd, you're right, absolutely. Like, it's not a strike because you can't correct yourself. You can't figure out how to pitch the ball better or how to swing better. You just have to take them all at once, and you wake up one day and your channel's deleted and you have no way of fixing it.
Right, yeah. To go back to the analogy that Nerd made, it's like if you were a baseball player and during a game you got recorded out for the strikes that you made during batting practice.
Absolutely.
It's just not currently a fair system. And it's amazing that we still have to talk about this in 2018, because I've been on YouTube since 2010, and coming up in YouTube poops, obviously we have to deal with so much of this shit with regards to copyright claims and copyright strikes. Thankfully, the copyright system itself has gotten a lot more lenient in terms of not taking down your channel, and nowadays they mostly just monetize your content for the rights owner.
They'll give the money to whoever owns it.
But still, though,
have you guys,
whoever
Nerd
says
City
they
or
own it.
Whang? Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, what about that? Because there's a lot of people claiming content that isn't actually theirs, and they're going around in mass claiming videos and getting away with it because a lot of smaller channels can't fight it legally in court if they even wanted to.
That's another big problem. Actually, one of my videos recently, the SpongeBob SquarePants video I uploaded, that's almost at 2 million views right now. One day, just completely out of the blue, it got claimed for allegedly having the SpongeBob SquarePants theme, even though that song was not even in the video. And so the implication here is that these rights companies, these music rights companies, they can just go and claim videos and suck the revenue out of them with no warning, even when these videos don't even contain the content that has allegedly been infringed.
So Whang, you kind of do a lot of videos that contain other content. I mean, in a fair use way, have you seen that same type of thing hit your channel?
So far, the only time... There's 2 times I had that happen on my channel. They're both for, like, shitpost videos when I used to just upload those to my channel. One of them was, it was, like, some politician, and the Curb Your Enthusiasm music comes on. That one got claimed for that song.
Damn.
Well,
Yeah,
I just Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I had the entire Jake Paul video that I just did was claimed because of the 3 seconds of Curb Your Enthusiasm at the end. Now I
That's
knew
when
that
they
was
go after.
possible. I had seen in group DMs people complaining. I think Quite, Leon Lush, some other people. They were like, "Yo, don't use the Curb Your Enthusiasm meme. You'll get your whole video claimed." So I knew that. I knew it might happen.
Is that the?
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, you're gonna get the
Okay.
podcast claim for singing that.
Oh,
Shut the fuck up, Rusty. Silence.
I'll cut it out.
You know,
It's interesting that you say that, nerd, because the same exact thing happened to my Jimmy Kimmel video, and once again, it was used for a very brief period. And I think what it is you used to be able to get away with that on YouTube, including if you include like 10 seconds or less of a copyrighted song. In my experience, you used to be able to get away with that without having it get claimed. But what I think is happening here is recently they've started to push their YouTube music streaming service as a part of YouTube Premium.
Absolutely.
And that has led them to really tighten up sort of
Content
the
ID
enforcements
system.
on music.
Well, I have
in
an
particular.
alternate theory, because the claims on my videos have been manual detection, and you can tell the difference in the claim between one that happened auto detected and one that
Right,
was
that's
manually
true.
detected. So the Curb Your Enthusiasm in my case meant that somebody who was an employee of the record company, who had in their head a knowledge of all of the rights holders that they represent, and made from watching the video all the way to the end of the video, made a match for something that they knew that they could do a claim for. So what that tells me is that because there's so much money flowing through the YouTube ecosystem now, in the same way that the four of us are all, we'll talk shop in DMs, or we're talking right now about inside baseball for YouTube, is that record companies the executives must be talking to each other and saying, hey, if you pay an intern $10 an hour to sit and watch all of Leon Lush's channel, and just, they'll have a list next to them of all the musicians and the bands that we represent, and they just watch the content for 10 hours, they can make
No.
thousands.
They have a sound sync. They have a sound sync.
Oh,
system.
sure, but you can see
Right.
manual detection. So, like, all my claims recently have been manually detected, and I'm hearing that a lot of these UMG ones are manually detected, which is why they're able to claim lyrics and imitations of songs that aren't even the actual songs.
God, UMG in particular has just been going completely berserk over the last 3 days. I've had over 10 of my videos claimed in the past few days. Now, granted, these videos are old YouTube poops that are either demonetized, previously copyright claimed, or blocked worldwide anyway. But still, though, it's like the most copyright claims I've ever received over such a short period. And it seems kind of scary for the future of YouTube, where you used to be able to get away with just a little copyrighted music, but now I'm trying to structure my videos where it's completely apart from that entirely, because it's just too risky these days.
UMG, UMG believes that
claiming-
they're operating outside of the DMCA, because Vega uploaded something in a DM. He showed some screen caps of this, so credit to him for figuring this out. But
He tweeted it out.
Oh, he tweet it? Okay, so in the mega upload case, UMG argued in court that they don't even have to worry about the DMCA because of a private agreement they have with YouTube. So I guess as probably the terms of a settlement to avoid litigation, YouTube agreed, just send us any video you want taken down or you want claimed or whatever, and we'll process it. And that's set it outside of the normal process.
They offer that. Do you guys have that in your studio beta? Because it's in my studio beta that I can take down videos that have parts of their video. Hey, from 4 minutes to 4 minutes and 10 seconds, someone used this clip of your Knife Game song that's being distributed through CD Baby. Would you like to take this video down? And I want to say no. I want to monetize it, but I have no choice.
Really? They give you that option? I thought that wasn't an option for YouTubers, where you could actually take action in the removal of the
anyone
video.
can DMCA anything at all.
Right. But this is a new system where they're actually going through and they're finding videos that share your content ID, which is something I've been
It's like
trying to.
Content ID Junior.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
for YouTubers,
it's been around. I tried to apply this program years ago because everyone was using something, and I was like, yeah, I want to monetize that, and they denied me. But now they're offering it, and they're finding bits of your videos. I don't know if you have to go through a Justin might know this. If you have to go through like a song distribution type of system like CD Baby for it to be put in that content ID.
See, I don't see it. I just checked out the Jinx YouTube channel to see if we have that for our music. But the thing is, like, I think we have some things that are distributed through CD Baby. Those ones, like, they're like, do you ever see those YouTube videos that are just like the album cover and the song title, and it's like automatically generated thing?
It's like, so and so topics or whatever.
Exactly. Like, we have those around. So I'm thinking, like, maybe that part of the system is linked to like whatever channel has that.
Right. You might be right. You might be right. Because I'm not sure if I took one album down from CD Baby, that was distributed through YouTube Music, which is what they're trying to kick off. But I'm not sure if it's beneficial to anyone. But yeah, I guess I have to check on that. But yeah, no, it's definitely a flawed system.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up, where the whole content ID little kind of baby system got released for creators. So, like, finally we can see sort of the power that all these copyright holders had over YouTubers for all of these years. And it's interesting that we bring all this up because I have a feeling that it's just multiple things going on. Because I go back to my SpongeBob video that got taken, or it got claimed for a piece of a song that I did not even use in the video. It must have only been identified through the metadata or the title or the tags.
No, man, it's manual detection. So what I think is happening is actual employees of the companies, and probably not, highly paid ones. It might even be outsourced to India. Who the fuck knows? But people are manually detecting these, which means they're sitting there, and because it's profitable, because when you claim a video from, let's say, Elvis the Alien or Leon Lush that gets 1 million views and blows up, if you claim the revenue on that, you get thousands of dollars. You would pay somebody a fraction of an hour to sit and watch that video. So they're paying people to watch the videos and manually make these claims, which is why we're seeing claims on videos like the SpongeBob one, where somebody, I think, is just guessing. Someone's
Right,
sitting
they don't
there
even
being
have
like,
to watch it or confirm
No.
that the infringing content is even there. They can just look at it and have like martial powers to just monetize whatever they want, which is complete bullshit.
And this is a big thing. You're saying if they can claim the content and they can claim the entire. So you make a 20-minute video about SpongeBob or whatever and use 20 seconds of their theme song.
I didn't even use the theme song, though. That's the thing. I didn't use any of the material, but they still claimed it anyway.
And sure, and they do. And in a lot of cases, in the cases where they actually do, they claim all the monetization, 100% of that 20-minute monetization goes to whoever the big lawyer, fucking the big dicker music company is, or whoever's claiming the song. Even though you can say, no, actually, 90% of this belongs to me.
Yeah.
Well, 10% belongs to so-and-so, so all the money belongs to them.
They could pull thousands of dollars in revenue in from a couple dollars worth of somebody's time to sit and watch the video. So, like, imagine if a YouTuber, it would be like if PewDiePie, who gets talked about all the time and sampled in 1 million people's videos, rather than using this auto detection tool, was paying a fleet of people to sit and watch all of the commentary community's videos, and maybe going channel by channel, which is, I think, why a lot of us have been getting hit like bam all at once, like 10 claims, 6 claims, 4 claims.
Right.
Is
like one after the other.
Yeah, because number one, that makes the channel afraid to fight them all at once, because if 3 of them go through at once, those are 3 strikes and the channel's dead.
And we don't have lawyers. I mean, a lot of us don't.
Well, it's happening with the YouTube Rewind videos. Like, a lot of them, like, they're being claimed for, like, a Drake song, I think, by UMG. And a lot of these, I guess it was, like, in the original YouTube Rewind, but a lot of these videos, I think it happened to I Hate Everything, got his video claimed for the Drake song, which does not appear for even a single second in the video.
So that's what Nerd was saying. Like, they're just, or Nerd or Emp, like, they're just going through and they're claiming everything because they're not watching it all. They're just claiming it, and they're tossing out a huge net and pulling in, and then everyone who can fight it is going to be less than the amount of people that they flagged.
And if you fight it, you're risking getting your whole channel fucking taken down.
Yeah, you got to go to court now,
true.
buddy.
It's just the system of bullying powerless YouTubers and ignorant YouTubers who don't really know how it works, that just relies on fear and complacency to make money. Now, I just want to say that the claim, I appealed the claim on the SpongeBob video, and it got released in less than 24 hours because obviously it's just completely fraudulent. And I Hate Everything also appealed his claim, and that got dropped. But you have to realize how many YouTubers this thing must be affecting, where the copyright system, if you're not savvy with it, it appears really scary. There's a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo in there, like, oh, if they reject your appeal, you're gonna have to take this to court. Like, a lot of people don't want to deal with that, so they just figure, oh, might as well just leave it claimed to so that I don't have to do anything about this.
You got to be ready to fight, or you have to have a lawyer, and which costs a lot of money, in which people are a little bit, apprehensive to pay a fucking lawyer to look over their YouTube claims, because that's going to cost them a lot of money, and they can go, this guy doesn't have a case.
I think that YouTubers
fine.
should fight every claim, because what's happening is, since most of us are not, it's easy money. And they haven't even had to, UMG, I don't think, has even had a test case where they sue an individual YouTuber, and they're raking in tons and tons of cash from doing this.
It's a big scam.
Right, that's the thing. There's no legal precedent. Because after Ethan Klein won the fair use lawsuit, you hardly hear anything about cases like that anymore, where just a private YouTuber or celebrity sues a YouTuber for defamatory content in like a commentary video, because that legal precedent has been set already. There has been no such case so far, however, with this content ID stuff and claiming music in a YouTuber's video, where that may or may not be fair use. It will depend on the legal interpretation of whatever judge is presiding over that case, but it's a huge hassle. A major lawsuit against a big record company is not something that the average person can really sustain.
If it's prevalent enough, it's a good situation for a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, well, we've thought about that, and there's something about lawsuits that really captures the imagination of the American public. I think it's some kind of fear, this deep-seated fear that everybody has, that they might get sued. So cases that involve internet celebrities get a ton of attention. Like Maddox and Dick Masterson are two people who not everybody had heard of before that lawsuit. It made them both more famous because it's so interesting when someone's getting sued. And also, the crowd tends to go with the defendant. They don't usually go with the plaintiff. So my problem with a class action would be YouTubers doing a class action suit against UMG would not benefit from that David versus Goliath thing, because they would seem potentially to the public like these, whiny, entitled, I want my money kind of, they would be the plaintiff.
How did it work with Napster? Yeah,
Metallica versus Napster. So
I would
did rather
Napster win that one.
If there's gonna be a lawsuit, I would rather it be UMG suing a YouTuber who has rejected their DMCA claim, because then the community gets behind them as like, hey, look, this is the record company trying to take my entire livelihood, and you have a situation like H3 where all of Reddit, all of the internet was like, yo, fuck that guy and his lawsuit. This is fair use, I would rather it be that than class action lawsuit. But it is something that's tempting for a class action lawsuit, because so much money is being taken unrightfully. The UMG doesn't care about fair use, and they've said so already in court.
But this is always the big case is like, once UMG falls under, and once people discredit them, and whoever wins, someone else is just gonna walk right in and take their spot as the big fucking multi-million-dollar company that's just gonna be fucking scaring the shit out of these small content creators.
I don't think that much is going to change until the actual laws change, and the copyright laws in America and the rest of the world, for that matter, are completely fucked.
Yeah,
and they have completely failed to adapt to the internet at all, and they're just completely antiquated. They're meant for back when everyone watched television.
Article 13 is going to flip a lot of this on its head as well, because DMCA was something that is an American law, and then I believe it's enforced by treaty, and there are some countries that are not beholden to the DMCA, but they'll respect it because they're doing business with American partners, and they want to,
because all these most of these social media sites are based out of the United States. so they have to respect the law.
Mm-hmm. Or they're at least doing business with them, so it gives what is that called, venue to sue them in the United States. So they'll defer to it. But if Article 13 goes through, I don't know how that's going to shake everything up, because there's no fair use under Article 13.
Well, what's going to happen with Article 13 is that it's finally going to rile up public opinion for copyright reform, because for so long, all these copyright things, it hasn't been a very salient issue. Usually, in terms of the public agenda and what people actually care about in affecting social change, copyright law is not really that high up there. Now, it's always been something I've cared about ever since I made YouTube poops. I've had to deal with this unfair stuff for basically my entire YouTube career. But the average person, either in America or in the rest of the world, doesn't really care or really understand the problems with the copyright system all that much. But this Article 13 thing is actually going to start affecting people's lives and affecting their well-being, and they're going to get upset about it.
I wonder. I mean, we couldn't stop net neutrality from being unraveled, despite the public being.
They tricked us.
What do you mean?
I mean, like they tried to. They made a campaign. We fought against it, and they just reworded it.
Yeah, they managed to frame it as this liberal versus conservative thing that it really fucking wasn't.
Oh, what are you saying, nerd?
Well, I don't know. I'm surprised, because Emp is usually takes a more pessimistic view on the future than I do, and it sounds like you're optimistic that the laws could change based off of public disgust at the effects of Article 13. But man, I don't know. I'm really losing faith in the ability for public opinion in a democracy to override the donations of corporate interests.
Well, I don't know. I just think this is a law that's really, really poor, but the thing is, not enough people actually realize it. But once it starts actually affecting people's lives,
it would have to affect like a senator's life. Like a senator's daughter would have to be a
die
YouTuber.
Before then, I think it's gonna die because it's gonna be someone like Elon Musk, whose life is affected, or like a celebrity, which is already happening. And you see people, we follow celebrities, and you see celebrities getting kicked off of blah blah blah, or what they're saying. Maybe the corporation or whatever is controlling the direction of the platform doesn't meet up with the people who are most influential, and once they get kicked off, they're going to follow them eventually.
I guess what also could happen is that free speech concerns in various countries could end up overruling the copyright law. You know, if let's say the Supreme Court determines, now we're all talking like lawyers here and me right now, but if the Supreme Court would determine that the Constitution is violated by an overreaching copyright law, then they could nullify it. You know, there are a lot of laws on the books that get disregarded in enforcement because they encroach on basic liberties. So I guess that's one way. You know, like if it started to get enforced, there was a test case and you found that it was getting in the way of free speech laws in whatever country that was happening.
But that's a robot. That's a robot without a human jury. You know what I'm saying?
The thing with copyright laws and public opinion is that everyone would want to get every piece of media for free if they could, except for wealthy artists. It sort of becomes like a peasantry versus the bourgeoisie people case in that aspect, where in their present form, copyright law only really serves to protect the extremely wealthy artists and record companies who own the copyrights.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm saying this as someone who owns a copyright that was being massively overused and manipulated and stolen by people who had a lot of money. These are TV channels. These are gigantic social media websites that were using my copyright, and maybe this was a little bit faggy or petty. I guess petty is the word I mean to say. To even claim these, but people are using my copyright and they're making money off it, and they're fine with it. They're fine sharing, taking some video that doesn't belong to them and sharing it and getting all the fucking people coming in to join and like their Facebook page. And this happens with everyone who makes any viral content at all.
Well, that's like that fucking World Star stealing Nerd's fucking meme.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what it's like. They steal that. So that's a huge company stealing someone much smaller than them, than their net worth and their reach, stealing their meme and profiting off of it and saying, fuck you, we don't have to even talk to you, and also we'll claim it.
That was that's some of the justification or the case being made for Article 13 being a good thing, is that rights holders are complaining that the DMCA is a game of whack-a-mole, where it's like you get all the benefit of stealing the thing for as long as it takes for the rights holder to locate it and then send the DMCA notice, and then you have something like 48 hours to remove it. And by then, it's like a days-old piece of media has already served its purpose for the most part. So it's frustrating to rights holders that they have to do that whack-a-mole. It's like as soon as they get this one thing down, it pops up here. And WorldStar hides behind the DMCA. Like I'm sure they have a DMCA notice on their site, which they ignore if the rights holder is not intimidating. And
the money it costs to fight them in court.
Yeah, Rusty, with your situation, I know it sucked for you.
No, I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah, I know it was unfair.
This nerd one, I mean, that's interesting. That's new. Like, I mean, even if you wanted to fight him in court, you'd have to pay for a lawyer. You would have to. It's
prohibitively expensive for a lot of the smaller guys.
I just wanted to say that my whole beef with the copyright system, and this is me coming from a perspective of making YouTube poops, which are basically bootleg, illegal videos, according to some people, that are just completely renegade and Wild West type stuff that should not exist. I'm coming from a perspective where the current enforcement of copyright over online media is completely antithetical to the purpose of the internet and the information age, where there's an increasing push and kind of a thing about human nature where everyone sort of believes fundamentally that information should be free. Now, of course, there's the debate over what's information and what's actual artistic property. But
everyone assumes all artistic property is information now, because everything's a meme. Nothing is a song, or nothing is a piece of artwork that you drew. It's all a meme. It's all just an image graphic that should be shared for free.
What we've seen happen is technology will route around the overreaching copyright laws. So in Napster versus Metallica and Mega Upload versus the United States government or whatever, you have innovation that made it easier to share things on a massive scale, and it really just became like a jurisdiction issue. So like if this was illegal to do in the United States, then they move it over and they host it in the Ukraine, or they host it in Russia, where they don't give a shit about the DMCA.
Well, if you go into Mega Uploads, the guy, he never even, by his claim, never even stepped foot in America. Mega's innovation, the newest version of Mega. So there was Mega Upload, which is the current case, and then that got reborn by Kim.com into Mega.nz, and the technology is routing around the damage of copyright law by encrypting. It encrypts it locally,
it's all
and then decrypts it. Yeah, so like they have no, I guess what's called red flag knowledge that the files that they're hosting they can't even see what they are. Would be their argument in court. So
right, they are not even possibly aware of whatever illegal doings they're being framed for, whatever.
Yeah, and decentralized file sharing has proven almost impossible to stop. You know, that's why they can't shut down torrent. BitTorrent, you know, being the main
I feel like Whang, you probably have some sort of take on this. I mean, you're studying some sorts of like all these like these weird microcosms of copyright.
Like my main take is like when it comes to Article 13, if the technology like we're able to actually support, because like all right, Article 13, it does allow for fair use, but the technology is not there to distinguish fair use from just outright stealing shit.
It's still abusable, manipulatable.
Well, that's the default is abuse with Article 13.
True.
Because it detects the at least that's the way it would have to be implemented. Sites would need to implement something that detects the material, then pulls it down, and then after that fact, you can do something to be like, oh well, this is fair use. So it's kind of like everything has a DMC takedown by default.
Yeah, we'll put it back up once we realize that that we were incorrect with our stronghold system.
And I actually think this is something that will wind up affecting these kinds of politicians and shit, because all these people, they all have their fucking Twitter accounts and shit where they'll like post dopey pictures, whatever the fuck, to try and be relatable. That kind of shit is going to be subject to that.
I never thought about that. You're saying like politicians, like they're gonna post memes, like Hillary Clinton say, just apolitical here, but Hillary Clinton posts a fucking Pepe meme or something that doesn't belong to her. That's not her image. Yeah. She doesn't own that, and so she could be taken down for copyright claim on that, or anybody could.
Well, if that's in the system, it would be done automatically.
Right, automatically.
That's my main gripe with just copyright enforcement as it's currently stated in the law applied to the internet as just a concept. How can you claim to own something that's shared by everyone? Like, for example, if, let's say...
I can fight that one.
Let's say if McDonald's became a meme tomorrow, and people just started sharing a picture of Ronald McDonald and the McDonald's logo doing just wacky shit, applying random filters or whatever. How can you say that it's fair for McDonald's to somehow look at all of that and claim royalties for trademark infringement?
What the fuck are you talking about? Hold on. You said that somebody is sharing Ronald McDonald. Other people are sharing Ronald McDonald, and you're saying why should that be trademarked? Because that's their fucking intellectual property right. They drew that, and someone else can't just share that and use it however they please.
Well, it depends on the context. Okay, I mean, half of these fucking art pieces that, like, they try to act like they're so fucking deep in criticizing society. Like, the way you achieve that, basically, is you just slap a fucking McDonald's logo on it, and it's a criticism of society. Like, all that shitty fucking art would be taken down immediately, which, actually, that might not be a bad thing.
No, okay, no, you're right. So what you're saying, like, so Ronald McDonald, take Ronald McDonald. Obviously, someone can't sell the image of Ronald McDonald and say, this is also mine, and then McDonald's goes, that's mine. You go, no, it's mine too. But if Banksy slapped a dollar sign spray painted over his face, with 2 lines through the S, and said, yeah, this is my proof of American capitalism. This is now my personal and my own intellectual property. Can McDonald's fight it? Even though it's a majority of McDonald's and 10% Banksy's or whatever. Like, did you change it enough? So, I mean, I guess that's what the courts are trying to do is, like, did you change the source material enough? And how much can you do that? But in the sense of a meme, think about the rage faces. The guy with, like, the fucking big head and, all the fucking old fucking rage face memes. Some guy drew all of those. He drew them all. And then they're just being spread across the internet. They're being slapped on T-shirts without this dude. He drew them, and someone's making money off it, and it is not him.
And then some of them are tracings, too. Like, one of them is, like, a tracing of Yao Ming's face. Like, this
Ming
or that copyright?
Sure, or, like, or the one of Jackie Chan or
Freddie Mercury.
Well, what's
Yeah.
interesting is we might start to see a technological enforcement of the line between what's transformative and what's not. And it might be limited by what the filters are able to pick up. So if you have... Now, the argument that we make for fair use frequently is that this is transformative work. And that the transformative can mean we've changed it enough, like visually, or we've added commentary, or we've added value, artistic value to the work.
what percentage is that?
I mean, I think that's all. So with fashion, I mean, okay, I'm changing the subject, but like, I think with fashion, it's something like 30%. If it's 30% different, then you can do it.
Okay.
But yeah, I wonder what.
Okay, but who creates those standards though? Like,
No, I mean the courts do, and the courts go back.
really
Nerd, finish your point because
scientifically 30%.
absolutely, and I'll follow Nerd's point up with when it comes to music.
Yeah. So what we argue when we're, or like, let's say H3, when he takes some YouTuber's video and he multiplies their face 4 times and zooms in on their lips and adds a sound effect and basically remixes it. That's a transformative work. So what we might start to see is a sort of like an enforced standard for transformative work where you have to beat the filter to not have what you're uploading claimed by the original artist. So
Right.
maybe we'll start to learn like what that means in a technical sense more than
I
what that
guess.
means to a judge.
So then the YouTube algorithm decides, or the Content ID algorithm
Yeah, and
decides
that
what
fucking sucks.
is and what isn't fair use.
Right, over
Well,
a
where-
human.
Where that gets
Right.
complicated though, because ultimately with like specifically with Article 13, they're basically putting the responsibility of preventing this kind of content to be uploaded on the websites. So then like say like people find ways to get around these filters, all the effect that really has is then the companies can go around and say, "Oh, well, this website isn't doing its job." And then like need them to make the filters more strict.
Yeah, some of the implementation of the DMCA, some of the test cases, I read them, and I read parts of them, and a couple of things that came out from the test cases involving DMCA. One of them was this term "red flag knowledge." Now, a red flag knowledge is not in the DMCA anywhere at all, but it became part of the legal precedent that, okay, does the host that is hoping for benefits from safe harbor, do they have any knowledge, red flag knowledge, like, is it obvious obvious to the average person that this is copyright infringement, or have they gotten a notice from the copyright holder? At that point, then they are aware that they're hosting copyrighted content.
Okay, put that in perspective. If you can think of an example, because that's really interesting.
Well, so then based on that definition, the line of fair use would be drawn by what the average person thinks.
Would know, yeah. So like,
the normie
if someone at
thought.
YouTube, if someone
But
who
that
works at
changes
YouTube sees
depending
that
on
this
how
person
our
has
culture
uploaded
changes.
like the Super Bowl, then the average person working at YouTube, it's fair to say they would know that this person, Johnny 342, who's uploaded a 5.5 hour broadcast with NBC watermarked in the side, they haven't produced that themselves, and this is copyright infringement.
Okay, but yeah. Wait. So, shit. Maybe I missed it. EmpLemon, you're saying like, how many people does it take to decide?
Well, my question is, who gets to decide what does and what doesn't constitute fair use? Like, where do you draw the line? It's easy to say
Like,
when
who
something's
recognizes?
It's easy to say when something's completely obvious, but cultural norms and cultural standards are always changing. So, is it really fair to just enforce all of these copyright rules as strictly as they are when most people don't even follow them anyway?
Oh, here's the term I was looking for. Does it create an unreasonable burden? So YouTube's argument would be that policing, and they're making this argument already in advance, is that policing all of the uploads that come in are an unreasonable burden for them as a service provider, that they couldn't possibly do that. Now, lately, undermining that argument is the fact that YouTube is leaning so heavily into machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Not even lately,
and
like
that
past
stuff,
2 years.
Yeah, well, that stuff is able to tell what stuff is as it's uploaded before it's even finished being uploaded. So
Correct.
yeah, I mean that kind of sucks for the unreasonable burden thing.
But that's just YouTube. And if we're talking Article 13 specifically, every website would be beholden to that. And YouTube is way, way, way ahead of like any other website technology-wise.
I suppose what would start to have to happen is there would be shared databases between, you know, like Twitter and Tumblr and any app that I guess wants to come up into
which is certainly happening
user-created
now
content
already.
game, and they would have to, everything that you upload, I guess, gets tested against that database to see if it's recognized as an existing thing.
Well, YouTube's current stance on Article 13 actually is that even with their current content ID system, and this is a system that has been in place and machine learning for the last 10 years, even with that current system, YouTube's current stance on Article 13 is that it's not even going to be enough, and apparently they're just going to have to block out the EU entirely from most YouTube content.
Fuck them.
You know who we should have had on this podcast is Leonard French, the copyright attorney. He would be able to say all this stuff. Like, we're fumbling around for the right phrases and the right cases, and we don't know any of that shit, but he would actually be more familiar with that. What do you guys think about?
Maybe
should we pivot back to talking about Mumkey? What do you think the title of this this podcast is going to be? Is it going to be MumkeyJones' band,
or just bitching about YouTube?
Article 13 and why it sucks.
Episode 5.
The only thing I'm worried about is, like, are we too inside baseball to YouTube where we would bore people who don't feel like they have a vested interest in it?
No, I think it's very every YouTuber has to deal with this stuff, but a lot of them don't. They either don't know all the facts or they can't articulate it well enough.
It's a jackass argument if we're all just kind of speculating here. Well, okay, so something that if we're gonna go back to Mumkey, Whang, you said that you've had a few copyright claims against your channel, and
only two. One of them was the Curb Your Enthusiasm. One of them was Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's system did it.
He has an MCN.
He's all about sharing everything. I mean, at least what I've seen him say on his, maybe not his company or his fucking whatever, but he's like, oh, I love when people share my shit because it's better. It's what we were talking about earlier. You know, the more your shit's shared across the system, the
right.
Whatever.
Okay, this is.
I'm gonna look right now, see which it was. Remember when Tom DeLonge was on Rogan, like talking all kinds of crazy alien shit?
Oh yeah, that had to be some Tom DeLonge shit then, because I feel like he did a massive shit.
All right,
it's
Rusty,
Rogan's MCN.
Rusty, talking about the Joe Rogan thing. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about how in most cases the current copyright system only really serves to benefit people at the top of the entertainment field.
Yeah, me.
Not even the artists. In most professional senses, the artists only get a small percent of the actual revenue that's actually generated by their show or program or music.
Well,
and a lot of that money goes to the freaking record executives.
No, but we're talking about Joe Rogan. We're not talking about an artist that's on a label. Well,
even
Joe Rogan owns it's all independently done.
You just said that Joe Rogan would most likely believe that his information should be freely spread.
Yeah.
But and yet it's copyright claimed anyway. Now, why is that? Well, I think in pretty much all of these cases,
let's ask Whang.
There's always someone behind the scenes pulling the strings, saying, "All right, I'm going to provide you with this platform and this distribution system, but we reserve the right to just monetize all of your stuff, even if you don't agree with it."
And what would their religion be?
I don't know.
It doesn't really matter. Whang, was it actually Joe Rogan's thing that did that?
It was all right. The thing that it was like I said, it was like only like different shit post videos that I made, and this one was "You don't know what Tom DeLonge knows," and it was just like basically like a supercut of him babbling, repeating himself, go, "You don't know what I know," like all that shit. And it got claimed by Bent Pixels, which I believe is Rogan. I think I looked it up at the time, and it was Rogan's MCN.
Oh shit! Okay. Well, so that's like a secret.
And they rejected my appeal. I mean, I appealed it. They rejected it. And I have a thing where I can appeal rejected disputes, but you know, if I do that, I might get a strike, and it's not really worth it for a video that like peaked at like 10,000 views.
See, that's what I'm trying to explain, Rusty. Behind each artist, even though they might completely disagree with how the copyright system is run using their intellectual property, there's always usually some big wig behind the scenes pulling the strings and sucking up all that revenue. And they're going to want that revenue, even the artist disagrees with it. And
I'm not denying that by any means. No, absolutely. It's the ease of their money. That's what allows them to do it, is the size of their corporation or whatever they are.
I'm just saying that it falls into my greater point about how the copyright system is really top heavy in terms of who it actually benefits. The whole arguments for these copyright laws are, oh, it helps out the artists. And the original point of the copyright system in America, where it used to be actually you only own the copyright for 20 years, now it's 75 years after the death of the artist, which is completely ridiculous. The original intent of the copyright law was actually to inspire artists and content creators to innovate and keep making content because the copyright would not last forever. But sometime around the mid-20th century, Disney sent a bunch of lobbyists to Congress, and every time the copyright for Mickey Mouse was about to expire, they'd extend the copyright longer. It's all a big money thing, and that's what I'm saying. And they claim it's about helping the artists, but if you actually look at who benefits from most of these copyright things, that simply isn't the case.
Yeah, no, okay. So it used to be about benefiting the artist, because it definitely does at some point, but they're using this as a means to appeal to sympathy. And they're trying to appeal to the creator. Hey, creator, aren't you tired of hey, Nerd City, aren't you tired of big companies like fucking WorldStar stealing your memes? Article 13 will protect you, and they want people to vote on that and say, yeah, but if you look at the actual percentage of how many times a situation like that happens versus how many times the absolute evil that it and negative shit that it's gonna cause will happen, it's gonna be a much higher percent in the negative.
Right, Rusty, and that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. Where the copyright system, it doesn't actually help out as many artists as it harms. I would argue that it harms way more would-be artists from fulfilling their full creative potential than it helps artists actually protecting their intellectual property.
You know
because
what?
Most of the actual protection and enforcement is done for the benefit of big, concentrated record companies.
I don't think these stats are even solid to even say one way or the other. But it does seem it's clearly scandalous the way they're trying to push it.
Exactly. Like, it's one of those things where in a vacuum, it's a good idea, but it's been corrupted so far to the point where it's almost a parody of the principles that the original laws once stood for.
Like, yeah, like my dick. Good in a vacuum.
Going back to Disney, they built their animation empire based off of public domain stories like Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, all those fairy tale type stories from the 1800s, and then they went ahead and pushed for just completely absurd copyright ownership, where it's now 75 years.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they
death
bought the rights
of the artists.
I'm pretty sure they bought the rights to a lot of these, and a lot of these are old stories.
Okay, well,
sorry.
The thing is, though, like, copyright was kind of made so that these rights would eventually expire and go to the public domain.
Right.
So they basically put extensions on on the laws that had existed already to keep on renewing these copyrights.
To claim money for the people, what do they call it? the person that like takes the money after the originator dies.
Right. And it's very interesting who actually owns the copyrights in these cases, because most Americans, the average people would say, oh yeah, well, the artist would own their own copyright, but that's not actually true. These copyrights get bought out by bigger and bigger companies until eventually there's just these massive concentrations of copyright ownership owned by just a few companies and an oligarchy of power, and all the money, all the revenue that they strip from would-be artists gets funneled to them.
Here's a perfect example of copyright corrupting the original intent of the art and the artist. One of the claims on my videos is for a file called Shock Horror A, and it's from a record called The Editor's Companion. And it was a physical record that was released with a bunch of stock sounds on it that were meant to be used by editors. So it's got like dun dun dun. That's the sound that you would recognize from
like from SpongeBob.
And the
dramatic
it was used on
hamster
TV for 40, 50 years, to the point where it became, now if you use it, it doesn't have the intended effect. So it becomes a parody of its original intent, sure. But the intent of that sound was to be used by editors, and not to, like, they weren't supposed to hit up the guy who composed that and say, like, hey, can I use this in in my project? It was meant for people to use. It was basically like a from what I can understand of that record, that was meant as like a Creative Commons kind of thing. But because it was published by, let's say Columbia House or whatever, and then it's currently administered by them, and they're using the copyright ID system, and see that YouTube is this big gold mine for grabbing revenue, that they're ignoring the original intent of that file, which is like, hey, use this in media when something sounds shocking. And they're trying to claim all of the revenue from that media because I used 2 seconds.
What about the Wilhelm scream?
Yeah, is that owned by somebody?
No, so hold on.
I'm sure it is.
Here's my theory, and I want to ask you, all of you, and Whang, you might know, like, but I think that there's because the Wilhelm scream is from 1950s, and I think there's a union of sound people who make sound effects and Foley artists who create these sounds, because you hear the same sounds of the cat going, "Meow," or the door creaking closed, or the child laughing, or whatever, or the other scream, the Urag.
I always get that one confused with the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, the Urag is the better one, but the but somebody owns these sounds, and I'm saying why do all these movies going forward keep using these old cheesy sound effects that are from 1950? Is it because they want to and they really respect that one point in 1950 whenever fucking everyone recorded them, or is there some sort of union that perhaps they have to use these because that's a part of the fucking deal that they have to make movies?
Rusty, that's the thing, though. That's the thing I was saying earlier, where the Wilhelm scream is quite literally a meme within the filmmaking community. Well, it's an iconic sequence that has been mimed by movies over and over again because it's a fun little inside joke.
No, it used to be fun, but it ruins movies. And but that doesn't even explain all the other sound effects. Sure, maybe the Wilhelm scream it's like a meme in the movies, but what about all the other fucking cheesy, bad sound effects that in the middle of a great movie they have to use the child laughing or the cat going, and it's the same shit you've been hearing, the same shit that was recorded 60 years earlier. You can't record a better version of that? Someone's forcing that is what
Rusty,
my conspiracy is.
Rusty, all of this goes into my theory about how
poop is
any
pee.
media that becomes very popular at any point in our culture is destined to become ubiquitous.
Yeah, but you're talking about fucking 50, 60 years ago up until today.
There's this thing that happens in film too, though, where like things like that, they'll cling on to it and be like, oh, we're paying homage to this and that. I feel like those sound effects are that kind of a thing.
But
Right.
at what point? But like, all right, so sure, like Star Wars did it in the 70s, but then Lord of the Rings does it in the 2000s. And you got to go at a certain point. You got to go, fucking Christ, dude. Nobody gives a fuck that the elf fell off the goddamn castle and did or
Rusty,
whatever.
That's the thing, though. References, parodies, homages, sampling, all of these things are done to show respect because whatever artist is composing this
You're right.
work,
Okay, you're right. But listen, why wouldn't someone record a better one, and why wouldn't the better one be used?
Well, it's because the original one simply has more cultural significance. And since it's so widespread and since it's so frequently used, it inspires other people. That's the first time they hear about it.
So the first
And-
one was the best one forever going forward.
Well, I don't think it's
Ever and ever.
I don't think it's a matter about being the best quality. I think it just has to do with the fact that people recognize it and people love it for that reason. Some things are just popular in spite of just not being that good. But what I'm trying to get at here is that when you get enough people doing and saying something, it kind of becomes adopted into the culture.
It
And
becomes
at that
a trope.
point, I think
It's
it's
like,
sort of ridiculous to
trope?
try to have copyright on that. An example, a huge example of this is the Happy Birthday song. Up until very recently, some company or whatever, some big music conglomerate
you can't
actually
sing
owned the
Happy
rights
Birthday.
for Happy Birthday. A
Did that
song,
get taken off?
Happy Birthday, a song that has been sung at every birthday party in America for 50 years. Some company owns that, and they're threatening to demand royalties for
All
anyone
right.
giving a public performance of
Emperor
Happy
Lemon,
Birthday.
I can hear the anger in your voice. Hold the fuck on. You're talking about someone, and here's where your misguided anger comes from, and where it should be going. The person that made the Happy Birthday song is the person that wrote a song. That motherfucker is dead. He's been dead for fucking probably about 50 to 80 years. He wrote Happy Birthday to You, but the reason why you can't put Happy Birthday in a movie is because somebody owns the rights to Happy Birthday. And you can't say just because this is a popular thing and just because everyone heard the song and started singing it at their birthday parties, all of a sudden it's fucking free game. No, that still belongs to someone. Someone wrote that song, someone recorded that song, and now just because everyone's doing it doesn't mean that it's free game, because then anyone can make money off of the intellectual property of someone just because it was popular.
Well, at that point, copyright starts to erode culture, because there wouldn't be
a little bit, but name another song. Just like sorry, finish your point, because that was a good point.
If there wouldn't be, like, going back to like storytelling and mythology, a lot of that is like verbal stories that are verbally passed down from one person to another, from families to another, from like tribe to another. And if the tribe that invented, I don't know, the predecessor to Little Red Riding Hood, if another group in another part of the world had to like
the story, are you not?
send some seashells to them to tell their story, it's like, that sucks. It goes against like the way information travels among humans. Think about some stuff that became like
no, Nerd Say, you're saying stories. This is something that goes like this. Happy birthday to you.
You're kind of reinventing that by singing it again.
But it's not reinventing it. It's the exact same tune. It's the exact same words. And maybe you type something like, you sing something like, you smell like a monkey and you live in a zoo. That doesn't mean it's your own fucking song. That you threw that on the end.
But like the overreach of these kinds of copyright laws, though, like, do you think you should have not been allowed to just even to do what you just did and sing it to us to deliver context?
Is every person,
no.
Is every person in America violating copyright law by singing "Happy Birthday"
hold
at
the fuck
a kid's
on,
birthday
Emperor
party?
Lemon. You're talking about Whang. You're talking about performance rights licensing. You're talking about us performing that right now for this, should we have to pay out to them? Absolutely not. And I agree. And so the cover is one thing, but also the context. But there has to be a line somewhere in between. Because EmpLemon, you're right. Should we have to? I don't know. What do we do? Just because we sang "Happy Birthday" to you, do we have to pay off to? First off, the person's dead, and someone else bought the rights from it.
Well, now it's owned by a media conglomerate.
Well,
it doesn't even go to a person anymore.
That's why they imposed time limits on how long these rights exist.
What are
originally
they?
the ideal copyright laws actually it encouraged innovation and reuse of stuff that goes into the public domain. But because of all these big companies, the public domain has basically been frozen.
No, you're right.
As
You're
just
right. You're
1928 and below,
Sorry.
and it's been like that for the last, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years. Whenever they changed the copyright laws.
EmpLemon, you're right. But also this conversation started. It went from something that I did not agree with the statute of limitations or whatever, into the Happy Birthday song, and so I got like fucking riled up. But yeah, so how long should it be? Should it be after the person dies? You cannot sell your estate. The estate cannot take over a song or a product.
But that's what ends up happening as the copyright laws are currently written.
Yeah,
I think originally,
I don't think that should. Yeah,
I think originally it was something like 35 years or something like that.
And so, if you don't claim it after 35 years, it's public domain, right?
Well, originally I think it was 35 years, no matter what. Then like it was specifically Disney, I think, that did like work to extend that and like try to like get.
Oh yeah, because they came out with fucking the Lion King and a wee mo up. No, wait. In the jungle, and they just stole it from a bunch of fucking.
God, we're gonna get so many copyright
Black Islanders.
video.
And they stole the plot from a fucking anime.
Absolutely, they did. But you know what? It's been 35 years, so fuck it.
Rusty, that's what I'm saying. These cultural elements, these archetypes, these songs, they just get reused. They get reused as an element of culture. And my problem with your argument about how the statute of limitations must be enforced. You asked earlier about, how do you draw that line? That's up to you to say how they draw that line or how many years it should be as the one arguing for enforcing the statute of limitations. At what point does it become not fair?
Hold on. Okay, EmpLemon, how long should I be alive that I create a song? Say I make it right now. I'm 28 years old. And so what, in 30 years when I'm 58 and someone in some fucking company, some weird new media source and some weird new media creator just takes the thing and recreates it and makes $1 million off it, I'm just supposed to go, well, there's nothing I can fucking do.
Rusty, the expectation
I created it,
is...
but I don't own it anymore. The government, who owns it at that point? I should own it. It's still mine.
No, everyone owns it, and everyone can be able to earn revenue from it. Yes.
Hey,
the point of the public
news,
domain.
Guys.
Sorry, was
breaking news. Keem just tweeted, "I'll see what I can do" at MumkeyJones at his new handle, Vincent Hates God. DMs
sounds
open.
Promising.
Nice.
Excellent.
He will though, because he's kind of been invested in this for a while.
Yeah, he got Medicare channel back.
Oh, did he? Oh
good.
shit, good. But he loves Medicare. I hope he loves Mumkey as well.